great. I have a very special interview for you today for our segment. And actually, you're going to meet two friends of mine here in the little town where I live in Guatemala on the lake. And when I first met Jared and Michelle, I had actually already seen them for quite some time before, at least Jared. I saw both of them running around the lake. And so what first actually, when they first came to my attention, it was because I was looking and seeing, wow, look at these people are working super, super hard. You don't always see that down here. There's a lot of people come down and relax. So I was astounded really by how much I saw them working. And when I put two and two together, my friends had told me that, these new products that were around in a lot of the local stores were being done by a couple in San Marcos. And then, of course, I did go down and introduce myself at some point. But there's two things about this that I think are super important for you to get from today's segment. And the first is just how important your digestive system is. From a medical point of view, this is just about everything. This is your battery for your life. This is your longevity. If you look at degenerative disease from the point of view of pattern discrimination, you see how many things come back to faulty digestion. And so protecting this is a big theme and a very important point for just about any condition that you're going to be dealing with. Certainly for the quality of your life, you want to maintain this. And then the second piece to this, and this really gets into our interview today, is and the incredible stuff that I found that Jared and Michelle were making, that I really developed a very positive addiction to in the time that I've been here this year, is the importance of fermented foods. So these two are super experts on the fermentation processes of various foods, common foods that you can ferment, and this is what they do and teach down here. So it's a tremendous, they have a whole product line, but it's a tremendous course that you can take, also a very, very positive thing. Folks who come through here and go to the workshop, I have the testimonials for you. It's just an incredible positive thing to know something about this and to get it from real expert kind of opinion. I'm a big fan of having mentors to really shorten your learning curve, and these two folks have just been great for a lot of folks in our town who want to know more about fermentation. So they're going to tell you why you should know about it, why it's so positive for your overall health and digestion, and you're going to have a lot clearer picture of what fermented foods can do for you in almost any case dealing with these common patterns in chronic disease. Okay? So this is Jared and Michelle, and I'm going to let them start by telling their story a little bit, and we'll get into some other things that I think are important for you to know. Fantastic. So welcome, and so happy to have a chance to talk to you guys about this. We know, of course, what it's taken to get this interview done, so just very pleased that you're here. Why don't you start off, either of you, Michelle, Jared, and just talk about how you got into this, the origin story of what you do with your company here in San Marcos, and how you first got interested in it. Was there an illness? Was somebody dealing with a condition where you had to figure something out, or what captured you to be such experts on the topic of fermented foods?
I know for me, I started traveling in Central America 2 years ago. I was living in the country in Nicaragua, and a lot of the farmers there, they had information packets about local produce that was being readily grown to heal their bodies with. It was my first real experience with from the garden, from the farm, medical healing. I was very interested in that. I saw the power of it. I started practicing a lot of natural medicine, and when I came to Guatemala, that's when I met Michelle, and she introduced me to a lot of the health benefits associated with fermented foods and how that can maintain a strong digestive system, help fight off parasites, bacteria. And I can say honestly that in the past year and a half since we've been doing Love Probiotics, I haven't had parasites or diarrhea. So
a clean bill of health.
Yeah, so far so good.
So this was actually a topic you came into when you were traveling in Central America. This is something that's taught to local peoples where you were?
It's a pamphlet that's handed out by the Nicaraguan government to people who live in the country that don't have access to hospitals readily. So it's a way that they can treat themselves, and it's an affordable cure for the people.
For maintaining people healty.
Yeah, and great sources of information about natural medicine as well.
And did you find a lot of the locals, the actual people, using that pamphlet and using that information?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
For sure.
no kidding.
I learned a lot from him about it. As
Wow.
well. Mm-hmm.
So there you see. I mean, you see how simple it is. This can be disseminated to anybody, really. You know, some part of it. And so how did you get started here on the lake? Michelle?
I came from Australia, and I started working at a yoga farm just across from where we are right now in Santiago. And people would come to this yoga farm to do teacher trainings, mainly from Europe, a little bit Australia, the States, and Canada. And a lot of them, as soon as they got to the lake and were exposed to new bacteria, you know, new water, new all kinds of things, but mainly the new bacteria, their systems, it would take a toll on them. And so they would come down with diarrhea, constipation, all different kinds of symptoms, mainly belly related. They'd come to me with any kind of gurgly belly or just this feeling of unwellness or just, you know, fatigued. And I started making ginger beer and sauerkraut. Initially, those are the most basic ones I could do with the supplies we had. Then we started expanding, making kefir yogurt, kefir cheese. I found an almost instant, you know, within a few hours, people were starting to feel so much better from just ingesting some local good bacteria that knows how to fight the local bad bacteria. And so people were just coming to me saying, what is this like magic potion that you're making me that's making me feel so much better? And I'm saying it's just fermented foods. You know, we're harnessing the magic power of this good local bacteria to help your system. And coming from the West especially, people's systems are severely depleted with chlorine, fluoride in the water, antibiotics that are either taken, you know, from their doctor or from dairy products, from meat products that they buy from the store, even pesticides, herbicides, if they're even a vegan, on their fruits and veggies. You know, we don't realize how much just ingesting products from what we consider to be like a trustworthy system, our supermarkets and things, they take a toll on our system. If we don't know exactly where they come from, if they're not produced organically, locally, etc., they can deplete our good bacteria to know that which knows really how to fight our bad bacteria when we travel. So people.
So you've said a lot there, actually, from the medical point of view, right?
Yeah.
From the medical point of view, the argument for fermentation with your foods is that, of course, as foods start to, what is fermentation? Fermentation is when the food's actually rotting. I mean, it slowly has a process by which bacteria starts to decompose it. And if you start that process, right, and eat the food during that process, you get this extra benefit of a very live food, right? Because all food has bacteria. All food has something going on, right?
Yes, all food does have something going on. For our purposes concerned here, the definition of fermentation is anytime you have sugar in a water source, you're going to attract local bacteria and yeast into that.
And that's how it happens, yeah?
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
And so with ginger beer, we put a little bit of sugar and ginger in water. With sourdough bread, a little bit of flour in water. With our sauerkraut, we put our cabbage, and we just mash it down with some sea salt. But basically what we're doing is attracting wild bacteria into our food so that we can ingest that wild bacteria. And the healthy immune system has trillions of different types of bacteria. It's only once we deplete it with, like I said, that chlorine, that fluoride, the birth control pill, excess sugar, alcohol, all these things that deplete our good bacteria in our system that teach our immune system how to fight off any kind of illness that's going to plague us. That's how we become healthy and stay strong.
This is something that, go ahead, Jared. Yeah.
Fermentation is a form of predigestion, so it makes it easier to digest fermented foods. It's a form of biopreservation, so the food lasts longer. You can keep it longer. It doesn't rot as quickly. It's a form. It releases minerals that aren't available in raw produce.
Like what? I heard you say this in the workshop. Like what?
So
it gives you access to more nutrition.
Yeah. So for sauerkraut, you get potassium, magnesium, phosphorus,
calcium, vitamin C, folic acid, but all these things that were initially trapped, basically locked into this cabbage, become bioavailable by the action of yeast and bacteria.
By that breakdown process.
Yeah.
And it's also it's a form of energy efficiency as well. So you have to use less electricity, less gas, less wood. You don't have to cook it as long. So
yeah, I want to say this, to my audience, but also for the sake of the topic right now. This concept, a lot of people get really into. There's a very specific and very strict diets, and the idea that, if you eat a bunch of raw food, it's better for you, right? But in holism, there's a concept that essentially your stomach's like a pot, and the spleen is like the fire beneath the pot. And the function of your digestive fire, of course, is to get the nutrients out of the food. Well, you can figure out for yourself. If you eat really cold, raw foods, it takes a lot of effort to extract those nutrients. And my experience is exactly what both of you have already said, which is that within hours, you feel like you've turned the tide on digestive problems. And that's why I've been such a fan, because as you know, I mean, I'm on your stuff every day, just constantly getting some kind of good fermentation into my body. And I've been telling you day after day, I mean, to the point of idiocy, just how great it's been for me. But this is the thing that I think people don't really get, is that your digestion is not a sterile environment. You've got to add bacteria, so add things that are very, very beneficial in a pre-digested kind of way, and you get more benefit.
I would argue that fermented foods are safer to eat than a raw food diet. There is lactic acid in all plant materials. As soon as you submerge it underneath water, it releases that lactic acid. Through that acidic environment that it creates, E. coli can't exist, salmonella can't exist, and any sort of pesticides that have been used on the vegetables are basically broken up. A lot of more the basic pesticides, and even if there's fecal matter on it as well, it's going to break up that
which even though it's an ugly thought, which is very often the case, you know, especially
Giardia, which
Giardia, of course.
From.
Where did that come from? You know, I mean, you know the cause of that and where that's carried. So yeah,
and Giardia cannot survive in the lactic acid environment that is created when we make sauerkraut, when we make so many types of fermented foods.
Yeah, I'll say this anecdote as well. You know, my teacher here, the guy I studied with here, wrote an article years ago called The Tao of Intestinal Flora, and he talked about this exact concept. The important thing I want the listener to get is the concept that certain bacteria eat certain other bacteria, and you've got to keep this thing in balance. The idea of just taking probiotics and taking some kind of supplement is not really the smartest way to do it, is it? Yeah.
Shh. Do you want to do that again?
Probably should. So I just want to get this concept across, which is that what you're saying is that there's a constant rebalancing of bacteria, and that certain bacteria are gonna, right, whether if you're even talking about really serious disease-causing bacteria, you have the chance for other bacteria to balance and combat those bacteria so that your immune system is not, on the one hand, sterile, but that you've almost like, as my teacher from many years ago wrote an article called Tao of Intestinal Flora, where he really looked at, you know, if you wiped out your immune system and all the bacteria in your guts with antibiotics, and you just planted pine trees right back in that forest, it really wouldn't be quite the same. So the idea of keeping a constant supply of very beneficial bacteria, as opposed to, right, taking billions of lactobacillus, right, where people take probiotics or eat yogurt and things like this, it's a very limited strain of bacteria versus all these different sources of fermentation really help to balance the intestines so that this one eats that one eats the other one, and none of the bad guys get too crazy. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people have asked me this question, a lot of females in particular, with yeast infection problems and the like. There's a term that's been coined a few years ago called eco-immunonutrition, which means that literally it's defined as the health of our immune system.
You got to market that, yes.
Within the context of an ecology. So the health of our immune system occurs within the context of an ecology. It's just the same as any forest. So if you wipe out a forest with millions and trillions of species and you plant a cornfield, as soon as any bug that can attack corn comes along and wipes it out, it's destroyed. So there's strength in numbers, there's strength in biodiversity. It's the same in forests as it is in our digestive system. We are one of the same. So the more different types of bacteria we can ingest, the stronger our system. The less likely one type of bacteria is going to dominate, or one type of yeast, which causes the yeast infection, and the healthier we will be as a result. As long as, yes, those yeast and bacteria are constantly fluctuating, but there's never one that's going to dominate prolifically for a long period of time.
Which is where so much digestive illness comes from,
exactly.
Right? Where you have all kinds of breakdown that's happening that's just not very balanced.
Sure.
Right?
The microsystem happens the exact same way as the macro system. One thing I just want to add is 60% of your immune system is based on your large intestine. And if you do take antibiotics, it's basically like a nuclear bomb in your system.
That's exactly
and it can take up to 2 years to fully recover that microflora. in your large intestine. And during that time, while it's rebuilding, you're more susceptible to colds and bouts of diarrhea.
Among other things, yeah. You know, there's a lot of talk about, and I just throw this out to my people as well. You know, the real trouble. We think in terms of germ theory as Westerners. We all went to biology in 10th grade, and you think that way. But a lot of what is really just crushing people now, digestively in terms of immune system, is of course stress. Mm-hmm. Stress speeds up the action of the small intestine and slows down the large intestine. So you get terrible pockets of putrefaction and fermentation, right? Mm-hmm. But in a very, possibly in a very negative way, unless and until you smooth this thing out. SIBO is one example. Small intestine bacterial overgrowth is exactly from that, right? Is exactly from stress, among other things. So, you know, all of these medical reasons to be eating fermented foods and fermented products, obviously you save yourself a lot of trips to the doctor. I mean, I can tell from personal experience that, you know, rebuilding my own belly and intestinal flora in this last few months, that I'm sleeping better, for heaven's sake, right? I'm more energized. I have better everything. So this for me was a real key. Did you want to add anything else on just the health benefits and what it is that people can really look toward if they get on a good fermented regimen?
I just want to say that most people that come to us have acute symptoms of, you know, they've got diarrhea, they've got constipation, they've got this, they've got that. They come to us when they're desperate, when they need help for their health. Then they've noticed that they have low energy, they're tired, they're sick, they're throwing up, whatever it may be. Oftentimes, within a few hours to within a week, they're feeling so much better. But these foods can benefit everybody. They benefit everyone from within, you know, the Western system, where we're eating foods that are saturated in pesticides and chemicals and antibiotics, to, you know, overconsumption of alcohol, sugar, the birth control pill, all the way to here, you know, when we're in Guatemala and people think that they're very healthy, and oftentimes they are living off the land, but, you know, sometimes we just need that boost in our
It really is for everybody.
It is for everybody.
It really is for absolutely everybody.
So the large intestine contains 400 to 500 different types of bacteria, and trillions of each in a healthy large intestine. So as soon as we start to wipe those out, even 1 trillion at a time, we become more susceptible to disease, more susceptible to stress, or to, you know, sleeping, like
getting worn down.
Yeah, getting worn down, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
So I would just like to say that I think that it's for absolutely everybody. My 84-year-old grandmother has stopped taking Tums, which are antacids, and she started eating kefir yogurt. She's sleeping, digesting, and she no longer has ulcers. Everything's way better in her life. My sister, same thing. My brother is gluten intolerant. He's now eating our gluten-free sourdough
Talk about
bread.
that. Yeah, talk about that, because I was shocked. I still eat bread, even though I had a little bit of a sensitivity for quite some time, but this is all the rage in North America. Mm-hmm. And I have my theories on why this is so, but talk about the gluten issue and why this is so key, based on your understanding of, you know, what causes this and what fermentation can really do to help it.
Absolutely. Gluten-free is all the rage. There's now stars beside it on menus: vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free. In my opinion, same as you, I'm sure you have many opinions on this. There's a lot of reasons why people are intolerating gluten these days. I mean, there's GMO wheat and this and that. When it comes down to it, everybody that I've encountered, from our workshops to my family members to our neighbors to our friends, as soon as we take the time to slow down the process of bread making, from what can be 45 minutes, literally, if you just throw wheat and like packaged yeast together and throw it in the oven, up to 4 to 5 days, which is what it takes us to make gluten-free bread. You are taking time for yeast to break down that gluten. It's just a simple vegetable protein. A lot of people these days find it hard to digest for various reasons, on a scale from 0 up to all the way completely gluten intolerant. But we've found with everybody, at least, their digestibility increases as long as we take the time to process this sourdough. So,
and you guys take 4 or 5 days to make a loaf of bread?
For gluten-free bread, yes.
Yeah.
For a basic sourdough, it takes about 24 hours.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for kneading the gluten and breaking it down. and a gluten-free bread, and we've not heard any complaints, or anyone who calls themselves gluten-free, they've bought our bread that has been processed for 3 to 4 days, literally just sitting and allowing the yeast to break down the gluten.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any issues, and people...
It is great.
We have a waiting list to buy them.
Yeah, you have a wait list.
It's pretty special seeing people's faces light up, telling them that they can eat bread again.
Yeah.
It's often...
Made with whole wheat flour, not amaranth flour or rye
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything.
No, it's different.
It's something a lot of people feel that they have to sacrifice. They can't enjoy it anymore. And it really is a simple pleasure of life.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, it's your daily bread. You know, it feels good to eat bread. It's a real comfort food. You know, we've been eating it for many, many thousands of years. So I was delighted to find it, because I obviously I know, you guys know I'm ordering bread every week. So,
Great night.
right? Talk about the training. Talk about the workshop. I had a chance to attend. It's a fabulous course that you guys do. You know, what are the most common things that people come with? What should people know about it? What do you include in there, and why? You know, what are you teaching about in the curriculum, and why is it valuable for folks?
Sure. We do a 3-day fermentation workshop. We teach people how to make ginger beer, kombucha, raw fruit scrap vinegar, sourdough bread,
Cheese,
kefir yogurt, kefir cheese, farmer's cheese, sauerkraut, and other things. So the first day, it's a lot of lecture so that people can understand the process, become familiar with the terms, kind of see how a lot of our cultures and our wild ferments work. And then the second day, it's experiential, hands-on learning, so that they hear it, and then they get to do it. And then on the third day, we have a probiotic lunch, so they get to taste it. So you get 3 different elements of education in a 3-day workshop.
It's a brilliant workshop, actually, and I was going to say, you know, exactly for those reasons, which is that, you know, you've taken something here and made it, again, very accessible. It's very experiential. You know, there's a lot about fermentation that I think is very easy to pick up, but it is valuable to have a mentor or some real experts show you, because obviously you're playing with food. You don't want to make yourself sick. So, you know, the course itself, I think, is, again, probably for everybody, and anyone could do this. But there's no doubt that there's some real tips and tricks that people really should know. And so the format of the course, where you get to hear it, do it, and then taste it, right, is, I think, just a fantastic... I would like to see more experiential learning for people, because that's so much what I'm into, and I really, really applaud it. Yep.
Also, I want to say that for us, it's important to show people that fermented foods, it has a plethora of health benefits, but I want to show them that it's easy. Everybody can do it with what's in their kitchen or with what's around them in their town, in their community. I want to show them how it's cost efficient. It's not financially exclusive to Whole Foods, to people that are, I don't know, on this like diet trip where money is equated with health. It's the exact opposite. And I want to empower people to take the courage to take the first step in their home, no matter where they live, whether it's in a city or in the suburbs or in the country. You can do it anywhere with what's around you, and it's cost effective. It'll heal your body, and you'll make interesting, complex, tasting, good food, and you can share it with your friends and family and share recipes.
It really is. It's actually cheaper to eat well, you know, doing stuff like this, than it is to be running out to expensive gourmet stores, which is a pretty important thing. I mean, your model of bringing this to the people who need it is a great one. So I want to touch on that in a second. Michelle, did you have something to add too?
Yeah, one last thing. So I just wanted to accentuate the fact that there is no known culture in the world without a history of fermentation of some sort. So we are very spoiled in the fact that in the past 100 years or so, you know, we have the refrigeration. So we can take any food that we want to last longer and put it in the fridge. That was not the case hundreds of years ago. And so all these cultures developed these methods of fermentation which added, you know, different vitamins and minerals to their food. It preserved them. It was a form of predigestion, of energy efficiency, and they could eat these foods all throughout the winter. Even, you know, as soon as we domesticated animals and we had cows and goats and things and we didn't know what to do with this excess milk, as soon as it ferments for a little bit, milk doesn't go bad. It separates into curds and whey. So separate into curds, and the way we strain out those curds, we have cheese. So it's amazing that people think that this is something scary that's gonna form mold. It's gonna make them sick. They don't really know how the magic of fermentation works. It's not really magic.
And that this was done for centuries and
been done
centuries.
forever.
Yeah, like there's nothing new under the
It's
sun.
really only been done like this for about 100 years.
And so
More or
you
less.
call us
With
experts.
refrigeration and the industrial.
We're not
food
experts,
system.
but it's like a revivalist culture,
It's
which
a
is what I
revival.
like to say.
It's
so
a
it is
revival.
it's a fermentation revival. It's
I
getting
love
back
it.
to the roots of things. It's getting back to do it yourself. It's getting back to like taking ownership of your food source.
This is great. This goes along so well with the permaculture training that goes on here. Again, empowering people to do better with what they have. I mean, this is a little bit the theme of my program. Great. And maybe one day an online course? I mean, could we see something like that coming together? I know the experiential part would be lost, but do you think there's people who would dig that? I mean, it's the age of information. It might be something to consider.
Absolutely. I'm very interested in it. If we could influence a couple people just to make sourdough starters and make their own ginger beer at home, to me that's a vast success. And that's part of a change I want to see in the world. For us, this is a passion. It's more than money. It's a lifestyle that we want to see and share with other people around us.
It shows. I mean, you guys are having a huge impact. The other thing that I think is valuable for us to share in this video is some of the sources where you got your learning. So who could you turn people on to, even just folks who have watched this and wanted to learn more about it, if they're not going to jump on a plane and come to your workshop? And I encourage you to do it. I really do. If you find yourself in this part of the world, you absolutely get by here and get trained by these folks, because it will really bear a lot of benefit over many, many years of your life for you and your loved ones. But what would you suggest people do for further reading, further investigation?
Sandor Katz 123.
Sandor Katz is, he is the revivalist god, I suppose, when it comes to fermentation. He is amazing. His book, Wild Fermentation, the first one he published about 12 years ago, really got me started making my own homemade wines with nothing but balloons for airlocks. His second book, The Art of Fermentation, both national or international bestsellers. The last one came out a couple years ago. He's phenomenal. Other than that,
Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon.
Nourishing Traditions.
Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon, for sure, as well. And The Joy of Cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the author.
And these have been like Bible kind of canonical texts for you?
Most specifically, if you're inexperienced with fermentation, Wild Fermentation by Sandor Katz is an excellent, interesting, engaging, do-it-yourself read.
Best intro source for folks.
For sure. It was published like 12, 13 years ago, and most people were terrified of fermenting from home, which is most people we see in our workshops. They're scared they need the right equipment.
Right.
They're scared as soon as
a factory.
bit of mold
They need a factory.
or yeast forms on top of anything, they think it's inedible. He tells you exactly how it is. You can do anything from home with like the most basic supplies that you have at home.
Great.
And that'll get you started.
That's fantastic.
And you don't need to go out and buy fancy equipment. You can like make yourself healthier with everything you have in your kitchen.
Great. And so you guys will continue to do workshops, right? For anyone who sees this, who's coming through San Marcos here on the lake. You guys will be here the remainder of 2014 doing workshops and providing training and products and all the rest, yeah?
Yep.
Absolutely. Probably workshops about once a month. Products will be available year-round.
Great.
Only on the lake.
Only on the lake.
Yeah.
Only on the lake. The stuff doesn't travel that far, that well. Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you again. I have more questions for you actually off the camera about your business model, but I just say to folks, this is a really wonderful way where you see something that's very positive for everyone concerned. This to me is the business model of the 21st century, which is really here's some people who are doing great work and getting paid for it to do good things for all concerned. So I'll talk to you about that, or perhaps we'll have you back for another interview.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thanks very much. All right.
Awesome. So again, we're very lucky, right? Very fortunate to have this kind of interview or this kind of information that I can get and bring to you guys. It's my pleasure to give this kind of content. As I travel around and meet folks and find out what other people are up to, you really do sense a kind of change. And I know it's very easy for people, especially when you're stuck in traffic and all the rest, to be very negative on what's happening. But here's some people who are really making a difference, working hard. They have tremendous freedom, but what are they doing with it, right? They put it to good use and really make a big impact in the town in which we live here. And so I probably will be talking to them about their business model as they continue to grow it, because it's something really worth learning about. But just to cover the segment today, you know, you're looking at the importance of local fermentation. Local fermentation, the bacteria that's in your area is the important thing that you want to be filling your body with on a regular basis. You can do it through such simple products. I'm a big fan of the sauerkraut, which is a real super food if you know what it does for you in terms of the rest of your digestion. It just supercharges everything else. But it's not these things are not stimulants. They're very calming, right? We have enough stimulants in our culture. It's the ability to rest and digest and to really down-regulate all that stress that most people deal with. That's the real issue for most folks. So again, the kefir cheese, the kefir yogurt, the ginger beer, and the kombucha that I have on a daily basis, these have been the products that really, really mattered to me, and they're all so simple to do if you have somebody show you. So I certainly hope you get a chance, you know, but this concept of... This concept of eating your way to health. A lot of people know that drugs and antibiotics especially have had a real bad effect used in the long term, and that as good as they are, right, a lot of people are suffering from their after effects. So eating your way to health as opposed to taking more pills to get healthy, right? Getting off of that whole roller coaster where life is pathologized, right, where all life is about illness and fighting disease, back to a thing of, but here's what's great about being vigorous and vital and healthy. This really is what the fermented foods movement is to me. And I can tell you, you can't, if you're listening to this and you're dealing with a digestive issue or some kind of thing where in any way your intestines and belly are involved, which, let's face it, is going to be most conditions to one degree or another, this might be the single thing that can bring you back around. I mean, without making outrageous claims, you're eating your way back to real vigor and vitality. It is not the same as taking supplements. It is not the same as seeing your doctor. It is not the same as getting expensive massage and all the rest. This is something you can really, really take and run with to empower yourself. You're eating your medicine at every time you sit down, every time you put something into your mouth, and the effects over a period of time are just amazing. I mean, Again, I'm a personal testament to this because of what it's done for me. So I'm super happy I could share this with you, and we'll be back in the next segment.